Mainstream recruiting is not working. The only thing you're testing when you're doing these traditional interviews is how good is this person at being in an interview setting. A good place to start would be to simply ask, when communicating with you, how do you prefer to go about this? So what we do in our academies is that we get applications from neurodivergent talent who have strong IT skills. A lot of them have a master's degree or a bachelor's degree within the STEM area.
Welcome to the Metautism podcast, where we're diving into the vibrant world of autism and championing inclusive education and employment. Join us as we explore innovative strategies, share inspiring stories, and analyze groundbreaking initiatives that celebrate differences and advocate for a future of equal opportunities. Let's get started. Hello. How are you? Welcome to another episode of Metautism podcast. I'm your host, Clara, and I'm super excited that I'm speaking with Carsten Lassen today. He is a CEO of Specialisterne Denmark. Specialisterne is internationally recognized leader that harnesses the power, the talents, the potential of individuals on the autism spectrum and other neurodivergent people. For the past 20 years, they've created meaningful jobs for them, especially in the IT industry. And that's why I'm super excited to speak with Carsten today, because we will learn more about how we can adapt our practices as recruiters, as leaders. Carsten, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
What are the common misconceptions about hiring neurodivergent people?
One of the common misconceptions about hiring neurodivergent people is that it is really difficult, that it will significantly slow down your productivity, and that you need a PhD in psychology to lead and manage neurodivergent people. There are a few but very important things you need to take into consideration. But apart from that, it's not that big a deal. But I would say if you don't do this, then you are probably set for a bad experience. But it's a misconception that it is like a game-changing for your company.
What do people usually perceive as difficult? Is it training? Is it keeping up with progress?
It's a human nature to be afraid of things you do not understand and things you do not know about. So we're all a little bit afraid about doing stuff that we have never experienced before. So I would say that is one of the main entry barriers for onboarding more neurodivergent talent. It is the lack of knowledge, to be honest. Most people, when they think of autism, they think about what they think Rain Man. They think people who are so socially awkward that they cannot fit into any social setting or any company environment. And that is by no means the case. Autism is a spectrum ranging from people who are so severely damaged by their diagnosis that they are not capable of fitting in any role, but also to candidates who need a little extra support in various areas. So the journey isn't as long as you would expect, but due to the lack of knowledge, most managers never get to embark on that journey.
How can we raise that awareness with managers? How are you doing that?
Specialisternes' work is divided into two parts. One is access to talent. We are the main go-to organization for neurodivergent talent globally. We've done that for many years. So neurodivergent talent, they know us and know about us. And we have spent many years creating this relationship. So they know that if they want to make sure that they find a business or a manager who knows how to manage them, they should probably revert to us for help. So that's a very important part of what we do. We are kind of like fishing in a lake where nobody else is fishing. But the other part of what we're doing is that we're doing extensive managers training programs. We're doing awareness work, awareness sessions. It's like buying the Ferrari without getting the driver's license. Specialisterne as an organization, we're doing a lot of awareness work for a lot of companies around the world, raising awareness, trying to eradicate bias about what is it like to be neurodivergent, or what is neurodiversity as a concept. So I would say we would probably be one of the organizations that you could turn to get information. But I know in this field of raising awareness, there are a lot of good companies, good organizations out there, ranging from national autistic societies in various countries to private organizations such as ours to like semi-NGOs. So actually, when it's about raising awareness, you could find a lot of providers out there. When it comes to doing the actual job placement, we are only a few that are doing this worldwide.
What is the process with your clients who ask for new employees? How does that process start?
When companies address us, it can be with like a variety of intentions. Some companies come to us because they simply cannot find the talent that they are requesting, especially within the IT sector. There's a huge demand for talent and a huge global shortage. Quite often, companies come to us because they cannot find the right candidate. Sometimes companies come to us because they have decided that they have to create a diversity and inclusion policy. If it is driven by the desire to create D&I policy, we would probably start talking about what would be best practice for doing so. I would like creating local resource groups internally and how to build a strategy. If it's more focused on finding talent, we would probably skip the first part and go straight to, okay, what positions do they need filled and what would it need to us to be able to do that? Because normally companies would say, we have this open positions, and then we say, okay, send us the job ad. And we would look at it and we would give the company feedback saying, okay, if you take this and this and this out and you add this and this and this, it would become more neurodiverse friendly. And then there's a bigger chance that we would actually be able to fill in that role. So it's quite often is like an iterative process back and forth between us and the managers. And basically what we're telling them is that they should try to not focus so much on the actual job role. They should be focusing more on what tasks is it that they need solved. So if we focus more on the task and skip this idea of they need this level of education, this level of maturity in the market, blah, blah, blah. There is quite often a long list of requirements on the side of the manager. So if we can kind of, try to avoid that and focus more on what is the actual task you need solved, then there is a much bigger chance that we can help them find the right talent.
Yes, I wanted to ask, how can companies adapt their traditional recruiting models in general to be more inclusive?
Like the traditional job interview is every neurodivergent person's worst nightmare. They don't know who they're meeting. They don't know what questions they'll be asked. They don't know where they'll be meeting. So basically, most, especially autistic people, would feel that they turn up unprepared. And then the hiring manager starts asking all kinds of silly questions like, where do you see yourselves in 5 years from now, and blah, blah, blah. Those kinds of questions that most autistic persons, they don't have a proper answer for that, because that is part of being autistic, that you are not very good at like envisioning stuff like that. So you would probably get a really weird answer to that question. And maybe the hiring manager won't get like the eye contact he or she would expect or a proper handshake. So normally autistic talent, they do a pretty poor performance in the job interview setting. And that would scare off the hiring manager and they would go for the second best candidate. Basically, the only thing you're testing when you're doing these traditional interviews is how good is this person at being in an interview setting. You don't even know if they've written the application themselves. So I would say mainstream recruiting is not working. It might be working for neurotypicals. It's not really working for neurotypicals either, but it's definitely not working for a neurodivergent talent. You would need to avoid like this mainstream recruitment model if you want to make sure you get the right fit. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done about that.
When speaking about managers, what can managers in general do to become more inclusive leaders?
When dealing with neurodivergent talent, the first thing you need to realize is that one size fits nobody. And neurodiversity, we normally interpret as different thinking. The first thing you need to realize as a manager is that neurodiversity is not something we could discuss. It's like the law of gravity. It exists. It is the acceptance of the fact that all brains are wired differently. So to give all your employees like the same conditions, you need to manage them differently. As a manager, you should stop assuming and be much more curious as to what will be the preferred communication styles or the preferred management styles of all your employees, basically. A good place to start would be to simply ask, when communicating with you, how do you prefer to go about this? Do you prefer it face-to-face, or do you prefer that I send you a text and you can revert to me in the text, or should we do Zoom or online? If you give your employees the opportunity of choosing, you will find out that there is a huge variety of their preferences, and that you can get them to be much more productive if you take these small steps in their direction. The same comes with management. Basically, some persons, they need like a goal and a direction, and then they want to find out themselves. Other employees, they feel more secure if they can get like regular feedback. Maybe some want feedback once a week. Some would really like to get feedback every day. It varies very much from person to person what motivates them. And one common mistake among managers is that they think that all their employees are motivated by the same thing. And even more common, that they think that they are motivated by the same as they are as managers.
Actually, what does the data show about economic impact of hiring people on the autism spectrum or neurodivergent people?
Harvard Business Review had done a couple of studies showing that neurodivergent or autistic people are 60 to 80% faster than their neurotypical peers if the task is properly scoped. And we have similar results coming from JP Morgan. We have helped onboard quite a lot of people in the financial sector.
That is amazing. But also, I believe in Denmark, you have studies that also show economic relief when people are transferred from welfare to proper employment, let's say that way.
We've done a study in Denmark we call like the social return of investment. And the studies in Denmark at least shows that if you move a person from social welfare into being like self-supporting, tax-paying citizen, there is a net revenue of 250,000 Danish kroner every year, for the rest of their lives. To get that in euros, you have to divide it by 7.5. Of course, in Denmark, salaries are high, cost of living is high. It should be of a government interest to solve this issue, because there is a lot of money at stake and there's a lot of well-being at stake here. And one of the major issues here is that society does not really have a phone number or an email address. So society benefits from us solving this problem. But from what I know, there is nobody, at least not in Denmark, that are actually getting paid for solving this challenge. And that is why we sometimes quite often see the problem really being like shot from person to person. That is the reason why Specialisterne was created. We see it as our goal to create the global systemic change so that hopefully 10 or 20 years from now, this is a no-brainer. We will be discussing this issue the way when we're talking about imagining how difficult it was to get women into the labor market back in the 40s or 50s. It took a world war to change that situation. Nowadays, it's a no-brainer, of course.
Now let's ask you about Specialisterne Academy. Can you tell us more about it? How does that impact people on the autism spectrum? How does that impact you? And of course, the employers.
Specialisterne have created an academy designated for autistic people with strong IT skills that fail to make it to the labor market. One of the misconceptions is that there's this misconception that if you're capable to get a degree, you're also capable of finding a job. But here you have to distinguish between hard skills and soft skills. And normally, a lot of autistic people are able to acquire a lot of hard skills. But the hard skills won't get you a job. You need the soft skills to actually make it into the labor market. Sometimes I say that the target group we're working with is the group that is closest to the labor market without ever getting there. So what we do in our academies is that we get applications from neurodivergent talent who have strong IT skills. A lot of them have a master's degree or a bachelor's degree within the STEM area. I don't know if you're familiar with
science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Exactly. Those quite often the topics that autistic talent are good at. So what we do like an initial assessment to ensure that they actually have strong IT skills. And then we're doing a 12-week training program where instead of doing this, where do you see yourself in 5 years, HR bullshit, because those questions can actually be quite hard to answer. And even a question sort of like, what is your strongest size or strongest assets? I mean, it will always be top of mind from person to person. So instead of asking those questions, we are testing. We're running a series of tests and a lot of casework. So we are getting to know each individual quite thoroughly. And alongside with that, we are also doing assessment on the soft skills, and we are offering what we call psychoeducation. That sounds like a horror movie. Really, it's what it is. It's tools for each individual to understand their diagnosis, quote unquote. Basically, what makes me, me? How does my neurodiversity affect me on the strong side? And what are the potential dips that I need to offset in order to excel in the labor market? So each candidate gets to know themselves much better, basically offering them a new narrative. So instead of saying, I have Asperger's, live with it, right? Now they could say, I have really, really strong competence within data management. In order to get to the full potential for me, I need a clear strategy, I need clear goals, or I'm very good at working with Scrum, things like that. So basically what we do is we get to know each candidate very well. So when talking to companies, we know each candidate well enough to be able to do a really, really, really good fit for the job position. So basically after 12 weeks, we know each candidate very well, and we are doing an onboarding in a company. And we say today we have a 95% retention rate on all our candidates over the years.
So retention rate is they finish the academy in those 12 weeks, or do they?
It's that they stay in the job that they're actually getting.
That is an excellent number. Thank you for clarifying
I would say
that.
75% of all the candidates that go through our academy get employed afterwards. The model we normally use is we have created a flexicurity model, because getting back to the fact that most managers are afraid. Can they handle this? Will it take up too much of their time? Will it have too huge an impact on the work life of their other colleagues? So the model we use is that we hire them. If we believe in them, we hire them. And we are doing a staff leasing model. So basically, the company leases the candidate for normally a 12-month period and pay a price for that. And then there is an option that after 12 months, the candidate can be permanently onboarded in the company if the manager and the candidate so wishes. And within those 12 months, you can get out of the contract on a 2 weeks notice. And no one ever exercises that. Maybe we try that twice. But this is security. This is us showing that we believe in this model, and we are making it as easy as possible for the manager to onboard. And included in that rate, actually, is all the manager training, all the awareness work. It's included in the rate for the candidate, because we want to make sure that they know what they're getting, and that the managers have the right tools in place, and that the colleagues know that they are now getting neurodivergent colleagues.
Yes, you really made it as risk-free as possible.
Exactly, because as I said, fear is one of the main drivers in this market, and it is totally understandable. We as humans beings have been, since the beginning of time, fear has been a strong driver, that we should be afraid of things we do not understand. So by sharing the risk, or by taking most of the risk on our shoulders, we are doing this transition much smoother.
What are some biggest lessons you learned as CEO of Specialisterne?
When I started as CEO of Specialisterne 7 years ago, obviously I did a lot of outreach to companies, and every time I called a CEO, he or she would revert me to the CSR manager, and I would say, no, please stop. I don't want you to do me a favor. Actually, I think I'm about to do you a favor, because all the studies that we have done in all the companies that we have worked with shows that after engaging on the journey to onboard neurodivergent talent, the tests show that internal communication improves, team coherence improves, the team belonging, the sense of why are we here improves for all the employees in the department. So basically, all our research shows that when you become a better manager for your neurodivergent talent, you become a better manager for all your employees. So that would say that is one of the major benefits derived from embarking on the diversity and inclusion journey. It's a misconception that you need robust employees. No, you need robust companies, because a robust company can accommodate all their employees, and that's the way you get the certainty that you have the creativity to evolve as a company. And I would say working with diversity and inclusion is not something you do out of a big heart. This is crucial to running a business, and this is crucial for being able to attract the right amount of talent now and especially in the future.
I guess this was a perfect conclusion. Thank you very much for joining me.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, dear listener, and also thank you to the Erasmus Plus program of European Union for funding this project. All opinions are our own. Follow or subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite listening platforms. And until the next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.